Welcome to the Maine Basketball Rankings Podcast. I am your host, basketball data nerd Lucas McNelly. So week 4 is in the books. The big game of the week, of course, was Falmouth with a come from behind win, 15-14 over Fryeburg. If you were listening last week to my podcast interview with Falmouth head coach Spencer Emerson, you would know that they were sending me some Falmouth swag. Not that I'm being impartial. I will gladly wear some Fryeburg swag if someone from Fryeburg sends it to me. But very thanks to them for sending the swag. It's a nice shirt. And it's always fun to rep schools here on the podcast. It's small and it's a little bit stupid, but I enjoy doing it. And we'll leave it at that. Now, some are saying that maybe being on the podcast, and you really should go listen to that interview. It's really fascinating stuff. Maybe that's good luck. Some might say that. I'm not going to say that, but it has been said on the internet, actually by me. But okay. So, Marc Calnan's here from Eastern Maine Sports. He's going to overreact to week 4 with me. We get into some fun stuff there. Eastern Maine Sports, if you don't know, they're incredibly busy and they do a ton of stuff all over the state, but mostly in Eastern Maine, as you might guess, where they don't get a lot of normal attention. So it's great stuff they're doing up there. And it was hard to get him on here because he's doing a game every night. He's way busier than I am. I don't know how he does it. Okay, so we're trying a new thing. We did this last week where the new rankings have not been released yet for football. They are up for field hockey and soccer. So you can go check those out and complain about how low your team is and how this team you beat is ranked higher than you, even though you beat them. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So, but the football rankings are not out yet, and so I'm going to reveal the top 10 here, and hopefully that will get more people listening to the podcast. This is a shameless move. I don't care. This is what we're trying. So, if you don't like it, get your own podcast. Okay, number 10. Portland Bulldogs, 56-0 over Lewiston this last week. They were 22nd. They moved up all the way to 10th. We are early enough in the season that you can do that. Give it 2 more weeks and you probably won't be able to move from 22 to 10 with just one game. We'll make a quick note here at the beginning about the rankings at this point. It's a lot of who you've played, how much they're worth, and most importantly, how much you beat them by. So winning by 1, you're gonna get some points. You're gonna get probably half of their points if you win by 1, a little more than half of what they're worth. Think of it like heal points. If a team is worth so many heal points, if you beat them, you get all of them. With the power rankings, it depends on the score. If you beat them by 1, you'll get a little more than half. If you beat them by 40, you're gonna get all of them. If you lose, you're gonna get by 40, you're gonna get none of them. If you lose by like 3, you might get like 40, 45%. It depends home or away, how high the score is, a bunch of different factors, but it's really like margin of victory matters at this point and keeping your losses close. So don't, if you're getting blown out, if your team's getting blown out, you want to stay close, make a run at it, do a backdoor cover, whatever you got to do. But if you keep it closer, that helps. Number 9. Bonnie Eagle, coming off a loss to Thornton Academy that I think from reading online was closer than the score indicated. And I failed to write down the score. Let me look up the score right now. Bonnie Eagle and Thornton Academy, 35-12. So speaking of the percentages there, Thornton Academy got 75% of that, 35-12. So Bonnie Eagle got 25% of it. Thornton Academy is worth a lot of points. So they actually move up with the loss because keeping within striking distance of Thornton Academy helps, and they have a pretty good resume otherwise. Number 8, this is the big surprise. Stearns. 8-man school, huge win over Orono. And Mark and I get into this, not only beating Orono, the defending champions, that was a bit of a surprise, but the amount they won by was a stunner. Let me go find that one. 34-8, which is nuts. So they got 86% of that. 34-8. They move all the way up to 8th. They're probably too high. But you know what? The thing I like about how the rankings work is sometimes these small teams can get a little too high, but that's okay because we're here to celebrate all the teams, and we just can't talk about the big Southern Maine Class A schools over and over again and argue over, which big school should be fourth and which big school should be fifth. Sometimes it's really awesome to get a small school at eighth or even higher. So, number 7, Cony. The model does not know what to do with Cony. 3-point loss to Leavitt. Model also doesn't know what to do with Leavitt. Cony was number 2. They understopped to 7th with the loss to Leavitt. How good is Leavitt? I don't know that anyone knows. The model has no idea. It's early. They're 2-2. They are lurking here in the 15-16 range. So they're worth a lot, but are they worth as much as they should be? I don't know. So this loss might look better in a couple weeks for Cony. It might look worse. We'll see. Number 6, Massabesic suffers their first loss of the season, but they actually move up with the loss because it was a loss to Deering. They were projected to lose that game, and they did indeed lose it, but they held strong, and they got quite a bit out of it. Let me find a Massabesic 21-14 to Deering. They're going to get 35% of that, and yeah, so it's a respectable loss. And I believe that was on the road, was it? No, it was at home. Okay. It would have been better on the road. Number 5, Foxcroft. They were number 1. They drop with a 20-6 win over Madnockhook. It's a little less than they were expected to win by. That doesn't help them. And some of the teams that moved up ahead of them had big wins or had big point totals. So it's sort of an understandable drop because Madnockhook's just not worth that much. But it's really compressed at this point. So the difference between number 6 Massabesic and number 1 is 0.7 of a point, less than 0.7 of a point. So that's very, very tight. This could be the difference of just an extra touchdown here or there swinging you 2 or 3 spots. Number 4 is Thornton Academy. That big win over Bonnie Eagle. There was a huge 14-point swing. We'll get into that with Mark later. Thornton Academy, I think everyone thinks they're probably 1 or 2 here. They are being held down by the loss to Bedford. Bedford actually dropped. So the way we're handling the New Hampshire teams is, because I'm not going to build a model for New Hampshire because I have too much to do anyway, and that would be insane, is so Bedford's going to get the value of whatever Max Preps ranks them. In New Hampshire, they're going to get the value of Maine, the main team of that level. So they dropped to 2 in their rankings in New Hampshire, so they are now worth the same amount as the second highest worth team in the model. It's not a great system, but it's the best system we're going to be able to come up with. So they're 4th. I think everyone thinks they'll move up. They could win out. Number 3, Fryeburg. Fryeburg falls. Actually, I think Fryeburg moves up with this with the 1-point loss to Falmouth. Where are my notes? I don't know. But big game. That's a great situation of where the model works better than the heel points because obviously those 2 teams are very, very close. And so we'll just go right to number 2, which is Falmouth. Falmouth moves all the way up to number 2. In the rematch, they win 1-1, like we said. In the rematch, the model will calculate a rematch at Falmouth. Falmouth is favored right now by 2.4. On a neutral field, Falmouth is favored by 0.3 points. That feels very close to being right, even if you just go off that one game. Fryeburg could have won that game. Falmouth, it was right there. Could have gone either way. And then number 1 is Deering. Deering, all the way up to number 1, 21-14 over Massabesic. We'll see how long they can stay there. They've got, I believe, a pretty good game this week. If I can find it. I think we find it later. Oh, I'm in last week. My apologies on this. Deering is playing. There it is. Kennebunk. Right, Kennebunk. I knew it was a big game. That'll be a big one. Kennebunk is lurking at 11th. So that will be a lot of fun. That is going to be at Kennebunk. So if you're near there, that would be probably the game to see. I'm going to very quickly run this to tell you the game of the day for the weekend. And we'll see where you should go. I'll give you a couple. Actually, and then we'll get to Mark's interview. All right, so the top couple games of the weekend, we've got game of the week is Holton at Stearns, Foxcroft at Herman, Oak Hill at Wells, South Portland at Bonnie Eagle, Fryeburg at Leavitt. Oh, that'll be interesting. Mount Ararat at Camden, Lawrence at Messalonsky. We are still in potential game of the days on a normal day in high school basketball. So just this is how strong the schedule is. Madomic Valley at Oceanside and Thornton Academy at Noble. Those are all for the Stacks Index I use to determine the game of the day. Those are all over 80s. Over 80 is a great game. So if you're anywhere in the state, there's going to be a really good game close to you. So get out there, check out some cool football. Hopefully the weather holds up for you, at least enough to make the game watchable. Yeah, and that'll do it. So let's get directly to my interview with Marc Calnan of Eastern Maine Sports. Okay, we're here with Marc Calnan from Eastern Maine Sports. Thanks for joining me, Marc.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lucas. Great to be on.
So, if you've been in this game for a long time, and I think the true hoop heads or field hockey ball heads or football heads in the state are well aware of Eastern Maine Sports and everything you do, but for the people in Southern Maine, explain what Eastern Maine Sports is, your coverage, how you got started, give us the rundown.
Well, I got started back in around 2009, and basically it was just, fun, hobby. It still is, but it's become a lot more than that. It's, just I've always loved sports and just wanted to get something started up in this area. These kids up in this area really don't get a lot of recognition, and that's how it all started. And, we've grown, and
if you're listening to this, his phone was on propped up on something, and he seems to have dropped it. And all right, I think we're back.
I got you. Sorry about that. Yes, usually a little bit more high tech than this, but I'm not tonight, I guess. But
this is usually what I get from a coach who's like, I don't know how to use all this stuff.
Yeah, I know. I actually do podcasts myself sometimes, and I'm usually on my actual laptop though. But sorry about that. But,
no problem.
But back to where we were. As I said, it started in 2009. Kind of, have grown significantly from that. We started off. We were in the Bangor auditorium, up, kind of doing a few games here and there during the tournament. Up in the way, the bleachers, just a bunch of us just doing stats and watching basketball and kind of reporting out to the few followers we had at the time, and getting the word out on the games. It's become a lot more, as I said, in 2020, which actually became good timing because COVID. We started broadcasting, and that's kind of, it was perfect timing because it was a need for that, and we we got kind of build quite a following from that, and a lot of parents couldn't go, and that was the only way to see the game. So kind of went from there, and now it's kind of exploded on Facebook. We've got 27 whatever 1,500 whatever we got followers, and trying to build the YouTube up. We're doing a lot more videos now. It used to be based on recaps and stories, and we still do those. Chris Lessman does a great job for me getting those done, and we do a lot of those. I do some too, and we do that. But we kind of hit on the videos, kind of 2024. People want that instant, the video. So we've been doing a lot more highlight. I mean, I told you I was at a field hockey game today. We've got a lot of good videos and interviews from that, Nokomis and Dexter. So we kind of go into games. When we're not broadcasting, we go out to games. Like this weekend, we don't have a live broadcast, but I know Chris is going to be out to Herman and Foxcroft, and I'm going to be out at a few things on Saturday. So, we're kind of out and about, and we'll get videos and stuff, and just kind of grown, and the broadcasts have grown. And, as I said, the Facebook has taken off, and YouTube, we're on, all the same things you are, X and all that. So it's still fun, but as I said, it's become a lot more than that. We're kind of, when we're not at a game, people like, you coming to this game, so, so it's become a lot more.
Well, I've been trying to get you on here for a while, and it's always like, well, he's at a game every night. And I'm amazed that we just happened that it was a field hockey game, and they tend to play those at 4:00. So that's pretty handy. Yeah, I mean, when I started doing all of this, you were one of the people who I looked at, and I was like, okay, so this is someone who's built something for himself outside of the major, outside of the BDN or the Portland Press Herald or Varsity Maine or any of those, established outlets. And it was a little bit of a template of not in a like, let me copy what that guy's doing and steal all his tricks, but a possibility that there is like a way to do something covering this as a third party digitally sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And you mentioned all those great outlets that cover sports, but the fact is, there's not enough of those. I mean, the Bangor Daily does a great job covering the Bangor area, and they cover everybody at the tournament and whatnot. And same with Varsity Maine. They got they got the Waterville area and the Lewiston area. They got, they obviously run all those papers, but they have their area. My area, Foxcroft Academy, Dexter, Central, Nokomis, MCI. They don't get a lot of coverage really, and those student athletes, Guilford, nobody comes to Guilford, Maine, and
Right.
and those kids deserve the recognition just as much as anybody else, just because they're a smaller school and kind of out in the middle of nowhere. They still deserve the recognition.
Yeah, and I mean, the Bangor Daily News 20 years ago had how many people in the sports department, and now it's like two or three, and then they ramp up with some freelancers for the tournament week just because the economics of newspapers have changed so much that they, maybe 20 years ago they could get to Guilford for a big game, but now they just can't.
Right, and and again, we thankfully right now, because of our sponsors and other kind of ways we're doing things, we're our products free. And that's, I think, a big benefit too. I understand why the papers have to charge, and I totally understand that, but that's kind of a thing where, okay, we're gonna and we're gonna pay, or we can go get the scores free. A lot of times people just want the scores, and
Hmm.
we try to keep the scoreboards updated every night or stuff like that. So that's another thing that people come to our site for, and then they see the videos and everything else while they're there.
Yeah, I have a similar thing where I have the scoreboard, and I think you're putting things in there during basketball season. People are putting things in there, and that's free. You do have to sign up for an account because I just don't want bots. Like I can just imagine bots like destroying that in 10
Yeah,
minutes. So I figured
yeah,
that slows them down a little bit. And then, it's you come for the scores, you come for maybe the basketball rankings, and then there's the subscription side where it's like, oh, you want to know how much your team is favored by it this
yeah.
weekend? Oh, that's the subscription part, and people are willing to pay for that, but you don't want to like have the entire thing behind a paywall.
Yeah, and your site, for our broadcast, definitely a key, during basketball season, especially a key part of, our information we are able to get, and we give you a shout out during a lot of our broadcasts too, because
Oh, I hear
it
them.
is a great resource of information we would. There's no way we would have otherwise. You only get so much from the coaches, and
Yeah.
you're not gonna get the stuff that you deliver. So appreciate that.
Yeah, and even I've broadcast before, so I know that even if it's something as simple as, oh, this team is fifth in the state in scoring, you're not going to go figure that out. That's
No.
a massive waste of time. You might not need it, but to just have it there as a tidbit for if things are slow or it comes up, you're like, oh, I have this little bit of information. And so that's sort of where I started with that information. I'm like, okay, if I were broadcasting the game, what would I want to know that I wouldn't want to have to go look up or figure out on my own just for this one game?
Yeah,
And so
and
it's stuff like
that
that.
those little tidbits, especially like in pregame, or mention, if they're scoring way below that or way above that, gonna say, wow, they're averaging 52 points a game, but they're scoring 78 today. And
Yeah.
that's good information.
Or, hey, this is the number one offense against the number one defense. And oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Immovable force
Yeah, yeah,
versus a strong
that's a good
object.
lead right there.
Exactly. All right, so and so you were just texting me earlier that you guys have a consensus for, I go and check these things sometimes and then I forget. You guys have a consensus for this week's games. What are you doing there? Sounds like you have a lot of people making predictions each week.
We have 19 people that make picks. They're
Jeez.
from media members to other people that help us, and whatnot, and we have them, and we had yeah, I think I sent them to you, right.
Yeah. Well,
The
first of all, who's doing the best?
Right now, Rich Rotella from he's from Bucksport. He's doing the picks, but usually it's Bob Beetham. It's
Sure.
Chris Leston is actually the defending champ, but Bob Beetham's the kind of dynasty, I guess, whatnot. Yeah, you know, so
Okay.
he knows his stuff when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, we're when we got
Where
some
how are you doing?
most years all right, but I went 1-9 last week.
Ooh.
That was something we're not gonna brag about too much, that's for sure.
I got torched on Saturday. I went like
Yeah,
5-5 on Saturday. I was like, "Oh my
yeah,
goodness, what is happening?"
good. And what we do too, we picked like 10 of the games that should be really competitive. They you
Yeah.
know they're not you know Northern Maine Valley team against Orono. They're not,
Yeah. It's not
you know
Old
they
Orchard Beach versus
yeah
Booth Bay.
anybody. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, Booth Bay. Yeah, so we picked like 10 games. Actually, I had Bob kind of, he knows the teams from around. We don't just pick teams from up here. Like we got Thornton and Noble on there this week. We got South Portland and Bonnie Eagle on there this week. So it's not just the Eastern Maine base. We do the whole state.
Right, and that's one thing I appreciate about your guys' coverage is it's Eastern Maine based, but just not like ignoring the rest of the state, which is a
Yeah,
thing that happens, you know, in some places, and it's part of it's just how much bandwidth do you have to keep track of these things. But it's, I've read articles where like the team that they leave out of the article is like 5 miles over the county line of their coverage, and I'm like, come on, guys,
yeah, yeah. We're not.
like
Yeah,
come
it's just
on.
like we're not gonna avoid Searsport and Greenville just because the MPA puts them in the south, right? So
Right.
they're pretty close to us, stuff like that. But yeah, in football when we do these picks, we do the whole whatever the best games are. We try, if there's 10 great games locally, we'll do that. But games like South Portland, Bonnie Eagle, Thornton, Darren, Kennybunk this week too.
Hmm.
There's a lot of good games down in the southern part of the state this week.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of them. All right, so let's do this. I sent you. Let's start with this. I sent you the updated power rankings top 10, which has not been released yet because I've got this idea that if I release them in the podcast, more people will listen to the podcast,
Yeah.
and we're trying it out. So what jumps out at you as who is too high? Let's overreact. Overreact.
Um,
Who's too high?
let's see. Well,
I mean,
Cony,
it's 4 weeks in,
Co-
so
Cony.
you
I
think
mean,
Coney's too high?
they just, and that, I mean, Leavitt. They just Leavitt just, I mean,
Handed it to
nothing.
him.
I mean, Leavitt's great, one of the best programs around. But I would think they should be down lower.
Okay.
Stearns, great 8-man team, great win over Orono.
Orono. We'll get to that because that was one of the surprises I think of the week.
Yeah. I was surprised how maybe not them winning, but by how much they won.
Yeah.
It was definitely a surprise. So maybe them being 8 is a little bit of
I
a
was
surprise.
shocked by that. I'll be
Yeah,
honest. I was shocked. I saw that at 8, and I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" And
yeah,
so the thing with Coney is Leavitt is screwing up the top 10 left and right because they were won by a lot because of last year, and then they got blown out in week 1, and then they won, and then they got blown out again, and it's the model's just like I don't know, man. They're
yeah.
they're
And honestly, come playoff time, I would not bet against them.
no, I would definitely would not.
with Coach Hathaway in that program, I definitely wouldn't bet against them. But right now, I mean, just having Coney that high was kind of stuck out to me, and obviously Stearns
And they're down from number 2. They dropped.
after
They
that
were
loss.
second because of that big win over Lawrence.
Yeah, so that and again, they might be right there at the end. It's just it's just you go off the last thing you've seen,
Right.
and stuff,
Yeah, and it's 4 games in, and part of it is just I mean, if this was basketball, we'd be like, it's 4 games. But now, it's football, so it's half the season.
Yeah.
And part of it is just if you look at a team if you look at Leavitt, for example, they're just not worth as much as they will be at the
Yeah.
end. So a win over them isn't worth as much as it probably should be. TA is not worth as much as they should be probably yet because they have that loss to Bedford. And that was a big loss. And so the model goes, I don't know. But I think they're probably, if I had to say, I think they're probably number 1 so far. If I had to go, or if I think where it's going to finish, I would think they would finish number 1.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, and this could change this week, but Bonnie Eagle being in the top 10 is a little bit of a,
That was a little bit of a surprise. They actually came up because they played Thornton Academy tight. So the interesting thing about that game is I didn't watch the game, but I was watching the Twitter feed, and there was a big 14-point swing in that game late in the second half, and then TA sort of took over in the second half. So I feel like that could have been a lot closer than it was.
I agree with that. I didn't
think
see it, but I did follow.
I think if I remember correctly, Bonnie Eagle was down on like the 1, and a kid from TA just ripped the ball out of his hands and took it 99 yards for a touchdown. And that's just a massive momentum play. It's obviously a big point swing, and that changed the game.
Yeah, it sure did, and that changed everything there. And Falmouth and Fryeburg was one of the better games of the week last week.
Oh yeah, so I have my new Falmouth. They sent me new Falmouth swag because I had old Falmouth swag, and Coach Emerson sent me some new stuff. I am not against wearing swag. I'm taking less of the I'm going to pretend to be neutral and more of a I'll just cheer for everybody. I don't care.
Yeah, get more stuff that way, right?
You get more stuff. It's great. You get more stuff. You meet more people that way because they're like, hey, I'll get you some stuff. Yeah, great. And then I had a great conversation with Coach Emerson because of that last week that you can go back and listen to. And yeah, that was a great game. I'm not wearing any Oceanside stuff because I don't want to get kicked out of my family. But, we have our limits.
Yeah. Yeah, family first, right?
Right. So who would you say is either not high enough? We'll take TA out of it. Who's not high enough or should be in that top 10, do you think?
Well, Herman's played well. I mean,
Herman's played very well.
Yeah, and they're not in their huge game this week, and I can't think, your rankings, I think will kind of, it will show after this week when Foxcroft plays Herman. That's, if Foxcroft wins, maybe they're going to be right there. They're 5 right now. Could be right there or whatnot. Or Herman.
They were 1 last week.
They what?
They were 1 last week, but they beat Madanaucook, and Madanaucook's not really worth a lot. And it's really, I mean, you saw the numbers when I sent it to you. Those are really packed in there.
Yeah.
Those first 6 or 7. Let me see where Herman is. Let's scroll down. Herman is 14th.
Okay, so that's a big game.
Right there.
That's a big game this Friday night, and and again, Foxcroft's got the experience, and and I mean they lost 14 seniors, but so maybe they don't have the experience, but it's just well coached, and that should be a good game though. And the way Herman's been playing, they could match up with them, this Friday night. So we'll see what happens there. But I will say, you spoke about Madanaucook, and obviously they're not worth a lot now. They came down from 8-man, but this is what 8-man's all about. They're not that far away from contending. We broadcast that game last Friday night, and they play tough. They have a couple of young runners that are good, and their line play. I would think within 2 years they could be real contenders. I mean they played Foxcroft at Oaks Field on homecoming night. That's a hard place to play, and they were right there. They were right there. Foxcroft scored in the second half to kind of put it away, but that was a good game. But yes, Foxcroft probably deserves to be right there in the top 10 somewhere. But it's a big game this week, kind of to determine if they really belong there.
So I've seen both of them. I've seen Foxcroft and Herman, and I've not seen that many games, but I've managed to catch them both. I would say if you put a gun to my head, I'd pick Foxcroft in that. I saw Herman at Madomic, and when I got there, it was 14-0, and then it was even from then on out. Both teams played very strong. And then when I saw Oceanside Foxcroft, which really impressed me, one of the more impressive things I've seen this year, Oceanside gets up 14-0, basically on 2 huge plays. It's in Rockland. Everybody's excited. And then Foxcroft rolled off 30 straight. And just like, wow.
They've got behind. They got behind in 3 of the games so far. Then they run off like a whole bunch of points straight and stuff. But they're kind of the juggernaut in Class D. It's not going to be as easy to get through the North as it was last year for them. But they definitely again experienced coaching, experience. They do have some players back from that team, and they'll be right there.
All right, so let's go over some of the games from this week. Let's talk Stearns Orono. Orono, defending champions, started out really great. struggled. They're starting to struggle a little bit. Is there an injury there? Like, is something going on?
Yes, I hear that Jack Brewer's not 100%, who's
Oh,
one of the better quarterbacks in the state. I believe they had another player out too, so they, obviously they're not going to make any excuses, but they are kind of banged up a little bit. As I said, it wasn't that surprising that Stearns won. It's
right.
just how they won because I 34-8, and just holding Orono to 8 points. I mean, it wouldn't have surprised me if Stearns scored 50, but it surprises me that
Right.
Orono only scored 8.
Yeah, because knowing they have that quarterback, I would have been like, well, okay, maybe they lose a shootout.
Yeah,
Okay. But 8 points was like just sort of a bright red. There's like once a night, there's a game where I see a score and I go, that can't be right. And there's enough data entry errors from coaches where I'm like, that one might be a mistake. They might have flipped that score. That might be a typo. Maybe it was 34-28 and they missed it and whatever. And so I had to go look it up. There was one last night in soccer where it was Waterville over Madomic 5-0 boys. And I was like, it can't be right. And then I asked around. I guess there's some injuries there too.
yeah.
So what
And
are you going
so
to do?
Yeah, so this is 2 weeks in a row that Orono lost, and it was a shootout. Their first loss there, so
Right.
kind of they need to get back on track, and I think they will. I just again, I would expect Stearns and Orono to meet again in the regional final. Now that's going to be in Millinocket probably instead of Orono. That's what that game meant there, and that's a big one.
That could be a big difference. Another one I wanted to ask you about. I can't the hell? Something just knocked off my desk here. Anyway, so the computer had Valley, not Valley Valley, but the football Valley, which
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to my grave saying this is a bad idea to have
That's
a team
speaking of
name.
them too. Just kind of news that you might not have. Valley
Ooh,
forfeited the game this Friday night at Ellsworth. They have a school trip. They already were low on numbers, and I don't know. I would think it was a school trip they knew about, but
huh?
yeah. So they're going to Europe, or so they are in Europe or going to Europe or something. So
So Valley football
yeah.
is forfeiting. Okay, at Ellsworth. Okay,
So
that's good to
give
know. Let
Ellsworth
me write.
give Ellsworth a 2-0 win right now.
All right, is it 2-0 in football?
Yep.
Okay, I know it was 9-0 in. It's 2-0 in basketball, and it's 9-0 in baseball, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, I
two
think so.
nothing in
I
football.
just saw somewhere. So I guess 2 because you can get a safety. I
Okay,
guess
yeah.
so. Yeah.
All right.
But
So anyway, so the computer had Valley by 1 over Dexter, and then Dexter 44-6.
yeah,
So
that
is
was
Dexter that good, or did they leave for Europe early? Like what happened?
no. Well, the numbers for Dexter is going to be lower. Their first 3 games, were against Orono, Stearns, and Old Orchard. So they
Okay,
that's they're not that bad, but they're not up to those 3 teams like level.
gotcha.
Like they might win out now. They really could win out the rest of the games now and end up 5-3 or whatever. It's just their 3 toughest games were right off the bat, and their last preseason game was Mount Airy, so they the 4 weeks in a row they played those teams.
So is there just that much of a disparity in talent between the top 3-4 teams in 8-man, and then the next set, and then another big chasm between the bottom set? Because so I'm looking at Old Orchard Beach beat Booth Bay like 80-2 or something, whatever it was. It's something ridiculous. And then Booth Bay turned around and blew out, was it Mount View, like 70-0?
Yeah, Mount View is way down. Yeah, that they're kind of down with Valley, and kind
Okay.
of yeah. That's that. Like I don't even know who would win, Mount View or Valley. I would just So that, we might have to put that on our picks if they ever play. But
Yeah.
I don't think they do. But
What were
so
those
yeah,
girls' games
they're
last
kind of
year where that was like 8-10?
yeah.
Would it be like that?
So yes, there's quite a as I said, Dexter not that bad. They have a chance to win out. I don't know if they will, but they'll probably be very competitive or win the rest of the games, and they were that far off from those first 3 teams. But those first 3 teams, Stearns and Orono, the 2 best teams up here. Old Arch is right there with them down south, and they play them too. So yeah,
Right.
it should get easier. But yeah, so that's going to throw the numbers off. Dexter's. It wasn't a surprise. And they probably could have won. That score was the same score it was at halftime, so they could have won by a
Wow.
lot. They could have won by a lot more.
That's crazy. That's great. So if you had, I'll have you make a pick. Who do you think in 8-man South or small? Sorry, in 8-man small. If you had to put, because
Hold on.
I think the thinking was Orono over Old Orchard Beach or Orono OOB at the beginning of the season, but I think Orono, who
I
knows right now.
Yeah. If you're talking about the North, yeah, I would take. I would take. Well, yeah, you don't know because it's going to be in Millinocket now. I mean, that's
Hmm.
going to be a hard place to play if they play the regional final. In Millinocket, it's really wild up there. For a big game like that, and it's going to be tough. I mean, I think if Orono's healthy, I wouldn't bet against them, but
Right.
Stearns with the home field advantage will be big, and I think Old Orchard will cruise down south.
Oh yeah, I think Old Orchards. I wouldn't be surprised. They're still at, so the model has a number called the percent perfect, which I always talk about, and I feel like maybe nobody understands it. I'm just confusing people and shouting into the wind. But it's the percentage of available points to you in the rankings that you can get. Like what percentage have you gotten? So if you're, if you got a tough schedule and you might be at 40%, but still be higher, whatever. So they're the only team at 100% still through 4 games. And
Yeah.
I mean, you got to really, in football, you got to win by like 40 games to do that.
Yeah, and it's kind of too bad they don't play Orono or Stearns in the regular season because that would be fun.
You would think they'd put that on the schedule. I mean, they've been traveling. Didn't they get up to Dexter?
They
Where did they
did,
go?
they did.
Yeah, so why
Yeah,
not go to Stearns?
yeah. Maybe next year. I guess that was their cross. I mean, Stearns had the crossover game with Greeley, which they ended up losing, which was quite a game.
Yeah,
They all have their one crossover game. And Norris was with Mount Ararat, so you know,
who knows?
yeah.
All right, so it's a couple more. So Bangor over Lawrence, 33-24. I was thrown a little bit by that.
I
Is that
I
just
was
a thing where Lawrence isn't as good as they were last year, and we're just seeing it now?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that too. But Bob Beetham, who we mentioned earlier, thought Bangor would win, and
Oh
he's
well, there you go.
yeah, and he and he sees Bangor and John Bass, those teams a lot. So so that wasn't a was that I yeah, I don't know what again they played Thornton to start the season.
I
Kind
think
of had a
so.
tough schedule, and they definitely improving because all these kids have been there for 3 or 4 years now, and so but yeah, maybe Lawrence, they're maybe not as good as we thought, but we'll see.
Do you have a sense? The biggest miss in the model this week or this past week was it had Winslow by 12 over Lisbon, and Lisbon won that by 6. And I don't have a read on either of those teams yet. Do
Um,
you?
I. I haven't seen either one of them live, but I did see Winslow against Foxcroft online, and I guess just seeing that, I guess it's a tough Foxcroft team, but not that surprising they lost to Winslow because of
Okay.
that. But I haven't seen Lisbon though, so I don't have a great read on that other than what I saw from Winslow.
Okay. That's a Lisbon's a bit far for you, isn't it? That's a
A little
hike.
bit, a little bit. I mean, we did broadcast game. They came up to Foxcroft a couple of years ago. Actually, they gave Foxcroft a heck of a game, one of the better games up here a couple of years ago.
All right. All right. And let me see. I'm gonna see if there's any more that jumped out at me. I mean, the Falmouth Fryeburg game was awesome. I really wish I'd gone to that. Because it was much better than whatever I ended up going to. I don't even remember what I went to. I know I was at a field hockey game, and it was no, because the field hockey game was pretty good. But you do what you got to do. Have you had a chance to see? So I'm really interested in Brunswick because there's the whole drama with him last year. They were down or two. I guess the drama was 2 years ago. Then they went down to 8-man. They're back in 11-man. And then they beat York
Yeah,
24-20. I
yeah.
was surprised.
And again, like I said about Matt and this is what 8-man's all about, right? Get your
Yeah.
program back on its feet, and get back competitive, and this is what it's all about. And 8-man saved quite a few programs and helped build the other a few others back up. Brunswick's one of the hardest teams to read because don't have a clue because they
Yeah.
they were an 8-man last year, and now they're being competitive back in 11-man. So they're hard to read, but again, this is what 8-man's all about, to get these programs back on its feet.
I feel like in a way, 8-man is football's version of relegation in basketball because we saw, like with Wiscasset, with Noble, a couple other teams dropping down dropping down a division or a class, gives you a little bit of confidence. You're not getting beat by 40 every night, and that can help rebuild a program much faster than just sort of staying on that treadmill of mediocrity.
Yeah, and you get kids wanting to play. Like the success that Orono's had the last few years. I mean, their middle school programs, getting built up because you see them holding a go ball or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's 8-man, 6-man, 11-man, whatever. You win a state championship. Kids want to play.
Yeah, and you get to those games, and it's fun to go to the games, and they're winning, even the regular season games. And I can just imagine, if you're a sixth grader and you're going and you're seeing the team get the crap beat out of them every week, be it basketball, football, whatever. You're like, do I want to do this? This doesn't seem super fun.
Yeah, and it's and I talked to a few times Orono's coach Bob Sinclair, and and he's mentioned that how this winning has helped the program, and it's what it's all about. Again, and Orono's been quite a story the last few years. They have lost a couple games this year, and then after this year they lose a few seniors and might not be at the top, but it's done wonders with that program and got players that kids that were playing other sports wanting to play football, and that's kind of helped too.
And I mean, that's the big thing, right? Is because, none of these kids are going to the NFL probably. Very few of them are going to play Division I football. No one's going to Alabama here. I mean, we're trying to give the kids, a good high school experience and give ourselves something to watch on Friday night.
Yeah. And I will say too, the games have seemed to be more competitive. I mean, obviously there's those games, some blowouts, obviously every sport, every week you're going to have that. But I think overall it's been more competitive. I don't know the exact numbers, but it just seems it.
I should run the number on that because now that you mention it, it does feel like it's more competitive and there's fewer 60 to nothings.
Yeah.
Around the state.
Herman's had 2 overtime games, I believe, already.
That sounds right.
Yeah. And then, so, I mean, see, I don't know if I've seen two overtime games all season last year. I mean, it probably did, but for overall, and one team has 2.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So then I'll hit one more game here from last week. Winthrop over Oak Hill. The model had Oak Hill by 5.8, and that was one that when it kicked it out, I went, okay. Because if you would, I would have picked that. I would have picked Winthrop in that, and turns out they won. That's the thing, just the example of where Leavitt's screwing everything up. Yeah. Because they're just not getting enough credit for Leavitt because Leavitt is doing weird things, and Coach Hathaway is trying to screw with me. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but he's doing it, and hey, all right. Okay, so let's go to this week. You have these consensus picks. Are these on the site yet, or are they not?
No, they'll either be tonight or tomorrow. There's no Thursday game, so
okay.
Well, we can kind of go over this consensus because it doesn't say who picked who, so what right. I mean, and we can do that. It's all right.
So breaking news. All right.
I gotta pull them up though.
Yeah, I got them on my phone.
Okay.
Consensus 6-4, 25. I don't know what the 25-15 is. Okay.
So that's the overall record. Like that 6-4 was last week. The 25-15 is overall.
Okay, so the consensus went 6-4 last year on the 10 games.
Last week. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't have next week's schedule in front of me. Let me pull it up here. Professional podcasting. All right, so we got Greeley. This is your biggest one. Do you want to read these off? The biggest consensus of your 19
well,
people?
I actually don't have the consensus in front of me. I sent them to you, but I can read.
All right, I got them.
I do have the schedule in front of me.
You got the schedule. I got the games. Okay, I got the consensus.
Greeley.
MDI Greeley 17-2.
Greeley. Yeah.
For Greeley.
Yeah. That's I can tell you who I picked. I picked Greeley, but yeah. MDI seems like a little down. Greeley seems to be one of the kind of top teams there in 8-man large, and them and Camden Hills, Mount Ara. There's a few strong teams there, but yeah, that one we have a convincing.
Here's what we'll do to add this, because we'll break all sorts of news here. The model has Greeley by 9.7.
Okay, all right.
All right. All right. Up next, Mount Ararat, or as I like to call them, Mount Rat. I don't know if that angers them or not, but this is the Overreaction podcast, so this is where we're trying to piss people off.
All right.
All right. Mount Ararat, who are they playing?
At Camden Hills.
At Cannon. Oh, all right. So you've got Mount Ararat 15-4.
Yeah, so 4 people picked Camden Hills, and we the rest of us think Mount Ararat. Yeah, I might be biased. I saw Mount Ararat in the preseason, and then I see what they did to Orono.
Yeah.
So it just they seem like their line seems tough, and they got a couple nice running backs, and I don't know. I just when I saw them there, it didn't surprise me they beat Orono at all. I mean, maybe by how much, but that didn't surprise me at all. They seem tough.
So what worries me now is the model has Camden by 3.4.
Oh, so I mean, yeah, I got to say this though. Our consensus, we went 6-4 last week, but 25-15 isn't that great through 4 weeks. Usually we're better than that.
That's not amazing, but you are, you're not picking the easy games either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be a little hard. It's like, it's like my picks in the playoffs, the number goes down.
Yeah.
It's a little trickier. All right, so up next is Stearns. Who's Stearns got this week?
Stearns has Holton at home. Holton's 4-0, right?
Holton at home. That sounds right. Where is Stearns? Okay, there we go. Holton. Okay, Stearns. You've got Stearns 14-5.
Yeah. I just being at home. Against again, Holton's done great, but let's see. This is where they get tested. Again, Dexter was 0-3. I don't know. Maybe there is a big difference between Dexter and Holton, but there might not be. And Dexter just had to start off with those 3, great teams. But if Holton could prove themselves, so if they win today, I wouldn't be surprised if Holton's kind of favored in your.
They are not. Well, because Stearns is in the top 10. So Stearns is favored by 13.3.
Okay, so maybe we'll be right there.
All right. I mean, if the consensus is 14-5 and the model is 13-3, I can promise you we're all going to be wrong.
Yeah.
They're going to get blown out. All right, up next is Messalonsky. Meso is playing. Hosting Lawrence. Okay, so you've got Messalonsky 11-8.
Yeah, I think
that's a tricky one.
Yeah, I think that's going to be close. I nothing would be surprising. I mean, Messalonsky's played well. Lawrence has been up and down, right? But yeah. I think that's going to be. I think it might be one of those close games.
So the model thinks so. The model says Lawrence by 0.8.
Wow, under
48.8% to for Messalonsky to win.
And it's not like the betting spread where Messalonsky gets 3 for being home. So
right. Well, I mean, the model's going to give them a bump for being home, so they would probably on a neutral field be a couple different. Yeah, something like that. All right, so next up, South Portland Sopo is playing Bonnie Eagle. Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
So you've got Sopo 15-4.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're 4-0, right? Bonnie Eagle's 2-2, but Bonnie Eagle's playing well. I think they struggled early, the first game, but now they're playing better. I guess again, Bonnie Eagle seems like a tough place to play.
And Bonnie Eagle's played a really tough schedule.
Yeah, so this could be really. What'd you say ours was? I can't remember. 14-5, 15-4, but
15-4 South Portland.
Yeah, so I think some people might have just looked at the records and went with that, but again, it wouldn't be surprising because obviously South Portland's proved a lot in the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, well, you've got that Eastern Maine bias here, where you got 2 Southern Maine teams, and it's the opposite of the Southern Maine bias, where they're like Caribou and Presque Isle. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
All right, so the model has Bonnie Eagle by 6.4.
Well, yeah.
So I mean, the question with Bonnie Eagle is when you get a team that's played that hard of a schedule, they're 2-2, but I mean they had to play Thornton Academy, and I forget who the other team was. With a different schedule, they could be 4-0.
Right, yeah. So, but so could be a good one there.
Okay, so speaking of Thornton Academy, they're next.
They're at Noble.
They're at Noble. Okay, this Noble intrigues me, and I would like to get to a Noble game because I saw Jameer Rose in the tournament up close, and I would like to see how that translates to a football game. So, Yeah, they're just sort of a team that I'm watching, but it's a far drive.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know?
guess.
So, but against TA, so you have 16-3 Thornton Academy, which, I mean, I feel like in a consensus thing like this, people are gonna need to see a lot to pick against Thornton Academy.
Yeah, I think anytime Thornton's been on picks, they kind of been it's been like that.
Do you happen to remember what the consensus was last year when they played Leavitt? Was that one of the picks?
it was. I can't remember, but yeah, I'd have to look back. But I think probably Thornton maybe not 16-3, but I think
Yeah.
they definitely had the numbers.
I bet it was probably like a 60-40 situation maybe because I think
Yeah,
we all
yeah,
knew Levitt was really good, but then you're going it's a class C team against class A team. I don't know.
yeah. I think it might have been. I think I would have double check, but I think it may be 12-7, 13-6, something like that.
All right, so the model says Thornton by only 5,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is lower than I would have thought.
yeah. Noble, they definitely Noble can definitely make a statement. It's definitely a bigger game for Noble.
Oh yeah, that would be a huge game for Noble. All right, Thornton Academy. Okay, Foxcroft. So we talked about Foxcroft a little bit. Remind me who they're playing.
At Herman.
At Herman. Right. That's gonna be a good one. You've got Foxcroft 15-4.
Yeah, and and I think we don't have Foxcroft on there much because they don't have a lot of games like this. I think they'll probably be on our picks this week and next week because next week they host Nokomis, so it could be another good one.
Mm-hmm.
So usually when they are on there, they don't lose a lot in the regular season, so that's why
Right.
most people pick them. But I think this could be good. This the next 2 weeks, as I said, could be good. They got Herman then Nokomis, so definitely good test for them and playing a class up on both of those games. So definitely good for them, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, Foxcroft usually kind of our Thornton Academy up here with the consensus usually.
That makes sense. And Herman C North is going to be real competitive.
Yeah,
The top of that, you got Herman, you've got Hamden, you've got Oceanside, you got Madomic. That's going to be pretty tough for whoever can come out of that. That tournament could be a lot of fun.
yeah, and they're gonna earn it. And we mentioned those teams, but let's not look past Nokomis.
Yeah.
I actually saw them against Madomic. Yeah, I
Okay.
saw them again. Yeah, so I saw in Madomic won, but it was a really really good game.
That
But
was
for
at
most of the time, I
Nokomis,
think
right?
Madomic pulled away at the end. But
Yeah. Okay. So you had Foxcroft 15-4, and the model says Foxcroft by 1.7.
wow, yeah. So yeah,
So it's at Herman. So there's that bit of a bump for Herman.
yeah.
All right. Up next, Madomic Oceanside. Madomic at Oceanside.
Yeah.
That's anytime you get Madomic. I'm biased because I'm a Madomic guy, but anytime you get Madomic Oceanside, I think it's one of the better rivalries in the state in pretty much any sport. That they don't like each other at all. I wore a Madomic sweatshirt to the dump, and a guy made a joke about the women of Rockland to me that I won't repeat. But it was quite funny, and I immediately called some people and told it to them.
Yeah. Can't say it on air.
You can't say it on air, but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
If you corner me at the tournament, I might tell it to you.
Okay, all right. I'll probably remember that too.
Yeah, so you have Madomic 10-9.
Yeah, one of our closest ones. We don't have, I think we have a couple this week, right? Because we got Kenny Bunkaren too. We don't have a lot of 10-9s, but pretty even split there.
So the model has this as a pick'em.
Yeah, so
And so technically the model doesn't do pick'ems, but it's Madomic by 0.003.
oh wow. So
That's a pick'em.
kind of like us. We agree.
Or great. Madomic by just a smidge, just the tiniest amount. I'm gonna go to that because obviously I'm not gonna miss that. Next up, Hamden. Hamden, another one of those teams in Senor.
They're at Nokomis.
They're at Nokomis. Okay, they're at Nokomis. Let me find that. There we go. Oh, it's on Saturday. All right. Hamden at Nokomis. You've got Hamden 16-3.
Yeah, I'm one of the three that picked Nokomis.
You know one of the three picks?
And Bob
So
Beetham was another one. Bob Beetham was another one. So
So they've got the opponent in common of Madomic. Hamden lost 18-0 last week, which I was surprised by that margin. I thought that was going to be a lot closer. And Nokomis lost, I forget the margin that one, but like you said, they pulled away at the end. It was pretty close in the first half, right?
It was close. It was within a point or two at halftime. So yeah,
Okay.
again they pulled away there. Oh, I don't mean to change the subject, but that freshman for Madomic,
Oh,
excellent.
I was just going to talk about him.
He was. I actually did an interview with him after the game too. He's
Ruiz.
What's that?
Ruiz.
Yes, and very impressed. I didn't even know. I didn't have years on my roster during the game, so
Right.
I didn't even know he was a freshman. And then I realized it when I looked it up more, and just impressive.
Yeah, he was someone. The first game I went to, someone pointed him out. Someone at Madomic pointed him out to me, and like, yeah, that guy's a freshman. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
And
He's a
and
freshman.
in football, like other sports, you see that. You don't see that much in football with a freshman making that kind of impact.
Yeah, and that was the thing he said. And I won't say who it was, but he's like, in football, because he knows I'm a basketball guy. In football, you don't really see a freshman at running back because they're just don't tend to be big enough and strong enough
Yeah.
and mature enough to handle the load and take that many hits. And he seems to be doing fine.
Yeah, yeah. Like the first run against Nokomis, he just like took off, and he like broke one tackle and took off, and
Yeah, I mean, I was at the Brewer game and they were trying to run out the clock, and he just went for like 25 yards and a touchdown. And they were just trying to run out the clock.
Yeah, he is. I mean, we don't talk about like what might happen in 3 or 4 years, but he's got a chance to if he keeps growing and keeps improving to go somewhere.
Yeah. So anyway, so we're talking about Hamden and Nokomis.
Yep.
So the model has this. I had it in front of me and I lost it. Nokomis by 1.1.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's at Nokomis.
Yeah.
There's no professional sports teams in that town. I don't know if you've heard that with the Cooper flag coverage. Did you see that?
On is that part of his ad?
No, it was some article in like The Athletic or something. Like early in the hype, they're like, there's not even a professional sports team where he lives.
Well, there's not one like within. I mean, we got the Sea Dogs and the Mariners and the Maine Celtics. That's it.
And the Hearts of Pine. There's the Hearts of Pine coming soon to a pitch near you.
Okay, let's put them in Newport.
They have good shirts. I might get a shirt. Those are pretty cool. And then the last one is Deering, number 1 in the rankings
At Kennybunk.
right now. At Kennybunk, who is
bet on the Rams.
They are just out of the top 10, I think. They're 11th.
Yeah, that should be a great game.
Yeah, so let's see. So obviously it's going to have Deering. The model's going to have Deering. You have Deering 10-9.
Yeah.
And if I can find it.
I did pick
There it is. Kennybunk Deering. Okay. That is incredibly close for so normally there's the number 1 team in the rankings is going to be favored by a lot. They're favored by 2.5.
Yeah, it should be a good game.
So it's at Kennybunk.
Kennybunk's just out of the top
Just
10.
out of it. They're 11th.
So
I guess
they're pull off this win, they'd be way up probably.
They would go way up. Yeah, even if they can even if they lose by like a field goal or something, they'll be way up.
Yeah. So that's
and that just tells you how packed the top 15 really are. In that, if we were talking halfway through the basketball season and it was 1 versus 11, it would be the line would be like 15, probably.
Right. Yeah, but
something like that.
Here it's a lot closer. Yeah, so
it's a lot closer. All right, so we'll see how your consensus does.
Week 4 was our first. Week 4 was our first winning week since week 1, so we did really well in week 1. But then we kind of
this sort of fell apart.
Yeah. So as I said, though, we do pick the tough games. It's not like we.
Yeah, and then, and I think like week 2 and week 3, even in the NFL, it's tricky. Because it's so easy to overreact to what you saw in week 1. You're like, they look amazing. And then you go, and then by week 4, you're like, oh, they looked amazing because that team's not very good.
Yeah.
But we thought they were good.
Yeah, Patriots win 1 game, and people thought, oh, wow, they might win 7 or 8 now. No.
Super Bowl back on.
Yeah. No, Cincinnati just started off that.
All right. I'll let you go here. Let's plug some stuff. Where are you guys broadcasting? What football games do you have? Do you have a game this week?
We don't. We got as I said, Chris is going to be over the Herman for Foxcroft Herman. I'm either going to be at Nokomis for Hamden Nokomis on Saturday, or I'll be at Dexter for Washington Academy Dexter. There's also a field hockey game scheduled at Dexter on Saturday, weather permitting. The football game will
Oh
go
yeah.
on either way, but
Right.
so I got as I said, this year we've done all the Foxcroft home field hockey and football games. We got a good setup over there, and the games are later, so it's easier to get around, schedule wise, get those, and got a good setup over there
Oh
for
my
what.
gosh. Something just started playing a commercial in my ear. Did you hear that?
No.
Okay, cool. That's good. It's just sort of like a Toyota hybrid commercial on some random tab that just started playing.
Oh no,
I was
I
like,
didn't
whoa.
yeah.
All
Yeah,
right, sorry
so
about that.
no, that's okay. I was just saying, like, we got Foxcroft. They got the Jim Robinson Fieldhouse where they play the field hockey games, so we got a good setup in there for broadcast, and we have all the home football games. So and that'll include the playoffs. For both of those teams, as Foxcroft field hockey will probably be either one or two. And Foxcroft football, they keep this up, will be number one in Class D. So they get a few
Yeah.
home games too. So
I think people don't understand, especially parents, when they complain about, oh, why don't you cover this? Why don't you cover that? Why don't you cover this? Why don't you cover that? The importance of we understand that the Wi-Fi works at this location.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I went to Guilford last Saturday, and I usually get a good setup there, but everything was down. And I tried the hotspot; it doesn't get good enough signal for the hotspot, and so I end up just doing videos, which was fine.
Hmm.
People love those too. But so kind of my whole plan, my whole day, because of the Wi-Fi. So that's why, you don't, especially the outdoor games, there's only certain locations that you are positive about, and
Yeah.
and up here sometimes, as I said, even the hotspot doesn't isn't great because you don't get the signal.
Yeah, and you don't want to drive an hour and a half somewhere that you haven't been and be like, oh, there's no cell reception here. The
Yeah,
Wi-Fi is not working.
yeah,
This was not great.
yeah. And so that beautiful field house. I don't know if you've ever been there over by Foxcroft Academy, but
No.
they right now they only can play field hockey there. They do this for the community. They walk and all that stuff, but they can't play
Okay.
soccer or football because the ceiling's not high enough. So, but they but they play field hockey and it's great. And then the football field there at Foxcroft is awesome. So do a lot of games
That's
there.
one thing I've learned about field hockey is you're not allowed to hit the ball very high.
No,
And
yeah, dangerous.
and my stepdaughter who's the Lincoln Academy, she yelled at me today. She's like, you gotta mention us because they're 4 and 5. So I'm gonna mention them and they're not even gonna listen. So I don't even know why I'm doing this.
They
But
might now.
they might now. They're mad that they're not ranked higher than Mount View because Mount View was that much better than them last year. Or they're just, it's just the way it works. They're all clustered down there in the bottom. And I was like, well, if you had 2 goals disallowed because you hit the ball too high, you'd be ranked a lot higher.
Get a win, get a big win over
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah, you gotta run up the score. You can't win 3-2. That's
Yeah,
not gonna work.
yeah, that's
You gotta get some style points in there.
yeah, yeah. Is she a senior? Or?
She's a senior, yeah. She's a
Yeah,
goalie. She's playing really well, actually.
good, good.
And like my unbiased opinion is that she's has a couple of moments where she stands on her head,
Nice, nice.
which is very cool to see.
And I know we're talking about football and stuff here, but I do want to mention Aaliyah Drummond from Nokomis went to the game today. She 22 corners Dexter had, and Nokomis still beat him 1-0. So it
Wow,
was quite impressive.
that's impressive. Is there anyone else you want to shout out? Because I know you're soccer, you're doing everything. Like, what's some of the most impressive athletes you've seen this year?
Um, Somebody that isn't going to get a lot of recognition statewide because of where they go to school, but Liam Mason from Greenville.
Hmm.
He is as good of a. I really believe he could play soccer at any level. Obviously it's 8-man right now in Greenville, but I've seen him play for the last 4 years, and I'm not a soccer expert by any means, but I can tell you that he's got skills.
I saw something interesting in the soccer game. The Madonna Lincoln were doing homecoming for soccer, and it was so foggy. I don't know if you saw the video I put on Twitter
I'll check it
of
out.
like you couldn't see the other side of the field. But EJ Hunt for Lincoln, who's one of on that basketball team last year. He was, I think, their 6th man. He was doing throw-ins from the sideline that were more effective than their corner kicks. And everyone's just like, he's throwing it really far, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's not normal.
That's awesome. But yeah, so that would be one because, as I said, you're not a kid that's not going to get a lot of recognition
Hmm.
statewide, but because of where he goes to school. But he will. If they win the states, they'll get us get him some recognition. But he's very very good. Field hockey. I saw a game last night. Jada True from Foxcroft had 3 goals. Was outstanding in a game that we
Wow.
did.
Can you, next time you're at Greenville, can you talk them into getting the shirts with the old school logo where the fish is holding the basketball? Like, get those shirts. It's the
Yeah.
best logo in the state. I don't know what they're doing with this new one.
Okay. I'll try to do that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I know a few people from Greenville. I can try to.
it's on the site. It's on there's the logos sec page on the site that has all the logos that I use. And so if you need to show it to them which one it is, it's fantastic. They need to sell t-shirts at the tournament. It'd be great.
Yeah.
I will definitely buy one. All right, so where can people find you on the internets?
Yeah, EasternMaineSports.com is a website. Facebook Eastern Maine Sports. Again, we post a lot of stuff on there, videos and our interviews. You got some from today. YouTube, Eastern Maine Sports Media, X Eastern ME Sports, TikTok too, Eastern Maine Sports Media. So we're all over the place. Again, a lot of people go to our YouTube page and watch the videos, but a lot of our hits come from people that aren't subscribed. So if people could subscribe, that would be great, and build that, and just loving what we're doing.
Awesome. And if people subscribe, then that gets you closer to monetization because I don't think you're at monetization yet.
Yeah, yeah,
And oh, you are fantastic.
yeah,
Then even
yeah.
better. Subscribe and get you some digital pennies,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
they add up.
Yes, they do. They do appreciate everybody that follows, and Lucas, you do a great job. I appreciate everything you do.
Well, thank
I'll
you.
be honest, I only pay during basketball season, but
Sure.
but that's okay. I do follow, and your information for your broadcast, for our broadcast, helps out tremendously.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
All
All
right.
right, thank you so much for doing this. Been a long time coming, and
Yes.
I'll see you in Bangor.
Yeah. Definitely. Talk to you later.
All right,
Yeah.
talk to you later. Okay, that's the show. Thanks again to Mark for joining me again. Eastern Maine Sports, fantastic website, fantastic resource. I'm there all the time during basketball season because he's got great stuff and super super helpful to me. That'll do it. This has been a production of MaineBasketballRankings.com, your source for the most comprehensive coverage of Maine high school basketball from Ashland to York and everywhere in between. This podcast is produced by me, Lucas McNelly, and is available wherever you listen to podcasts and a bunch of places you don't. If you enjoy it, please leave a nice review because it does help out with the algorithms. And if you really, really like this, consider subscribing to the site where there's more data. And anyway, it just really helps make it possible for stuff like this to happen. And it's a lot harder. The more subscribers there are, the less my wife complains about me doing this. So I think we all can understand that. Anyway, tell your friends, tell your enemies.